Okay, so this is for the subject church financial management, and we are now on the second chapter, chapter 2, and this one is about accounting and financial reporting. So, um, just a bit of segue. I did record a 1 hour long discussion, but unfortunately the app crashed and it didn't save the video. So now I'm going to try and record 15-minute video discussion. So I'm going to time this one. So wherever I'll have to cut the discussion. So that would be it. Okay. So moving forward, chapter 2, accounting and financial reporting. So essentially this is the main point of the subject, to teach you about the basics of accounting and financial reporting so that you'd be able to understand and be able to read financial reports given to you. The importance of understanding financial reports is for you to be properly informed about the financial situation of the church, and for you to um, make decisions that would hopefully help improve the financial situation of the organization or the church. Okay. When it comes to financial reporting, so there are two types: internal and external financial reporting. So for internal, there are no guidelines or strict laws to be followed, at least in the case of here in the Philippines. There are no format to be followed. It would depend on the need of the management of the church, depending on what situation they're trying to come up with a decision. So the information that they would need would be different, um, given the specific situation. Okay. Uh, but essentially, the reports to be made for internal financial reporting would be useful to the management alone. Okay, if external users read them, so it would not, um, well, normally it would not be helpful for them because they won't be making decisions for the organization. But in a way, for the most part, internal financial reports must remain internally, uh, mainly because of confidentiality. You don't want other people to know what's going on within the finances of the church, especially if it's somewhat negative. Not exactly negative, but just negative in a way that it's not, it wouldn't show profits. um it might show the lack of funds for certain activities. So it's not exactly negative, just that there are challenges within the organization. Okay. And then in the case of external financial reporting, so here in the Philippines, there are certain requirements for a nonprofit organization to submit annual financial statements, and normally they have to be audited. Okay, so AFS, audited financial statements. For churches which are registered with the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, if they are registered as a corporation, then they are required to submit an audited financial statements every year, 180 days from the end of their accounting period. So in terms of financial reporting period, so we have calendar year and fiscal year. For calendar year, it would be 1 year from January 1 to December 31. So let's say for 2021, we have January 1, 2021 up to December 31, 2021. Okay, and then for the SEC, 180 days from December 31 would be the due date of submitting the annual financial statements. Okay, and the second one, fiscal year, 1 year which would start at at any point during the year. For example, schools. Most of the time, schools would follow the academic year. So, for example, VVBC, the fiscal year begins on May 1 and would end on April 30. Okay, so for them, it would be 180 days from April 30. Okay, so that would be the due date. Okay, and then other than the SEC, they would also be required to submit the AFS to BIR. So for the BIR, it would be, what do you call that? For calendar year, it would be April 15 of the following year. But for fiscal years, it would be on the 15th day of the 14th of the fourth month from the end of uh, the accounting year. Okay, so for BBBC, if it's April 30, the BIR would be due on April, May, June, July, August 15. Okay, and then for SEC, it would be around August 28, 29, or 30. Okay, exactly 180 days from April 30. Okay, so there is that. For external financial reporting, so this one would follow a certain format in accordance with accounting standards. Okay, and the reason for that is so that anyone who would use it, who would read the financial statements, would be able to understand them um, fairly easily. Okay, what do you call it? There is that assumption that users of external financial reports have a basic knowledge of how financial statements are prepared. Okay, and with that assumption that they do have a background in accounting, so um, what do you call it? The makers of the financial statements uh, would have that assumption, and they would present the financial statements the same way for any type of organization that they are preparing financial reports for. Okay. Another continuation, internal financial reporting. So, financial reporting is a means, not an end. Essentially, they are used as an aid or as a guide for the management to make decisions for the organization. Okay, so it's a means, not an end. Okay, the information from internal financial reports would be considered when making decisions. Information provided by financial reporting process must be timely, accurate, and relevant. Okay, so when we say timely, of course, the financial condition of an organization is, subject to change every month or every quarter. So it's important that the information that they would use in making their decisions are timely. Okay, it's up to date. The information is up to date. Let's say, just last month, this is our financial situation. Okay, and then accuracy would pertain to ensuring that the transactions involving the church activities are all recorded properly. Okay, and normally only financial transactions are booked in accounting. Okay, and then it would also accuracy would also pertain to the proper items or accounts are used in recording, the amounts are correct, and then the treatments are appropriate as well. Okay, and then when it comes to relevance, so how do you call that, there's a certain format, the when it comes to financial condition or financial position, assets would be presented first, and then liabilities, and then you have the net assets. Okay, and then um, for the income statement or statement of activities, you have the sources of funds and then the uses of the funds. Okay, it would, depending on the situation which is requiring uh, the decision. So the management may look at different things from the financial statements. Okay, if they are concerned about reducing costs, so they might look at the operating expenses, okay, and see if any of it can be controlled or reduced. And then if they're trying to raise funds for something, then they might look at the breakdown of the revenue or fund sources and see um, which of the activities are less, what do you call it, the members are contributing less to certain activities. Okay, so they might mention that and encourage the members to contribute more to specific activities. Like for example, in GBC, last Sunday it was mentioned that members do not tend to contribute on the building, on the vehicle, on uh, the school, Bible school. Okay, for the most part, only tithes and offerings and the faith promise are given attention. Okay, so there is that. So again, it would depend on the type of decision that would be made and which item the decision makers must look into. Okay, and then financial reports must be clear and understandable. As in the accounting field, normally we follow, certain presentations. Normally it's in the form of tables. So you have the items and then the figures or the amounts for those items. Okay. Uh, Normally we also provide a narrative to explain the table or the information given so that an ordinary person would better understand it. Okay. So we do have that, what do you call it, goal as well to ensure that the decision maker, even if they don't have that much, understanding about accounting, uh, we should make a report in such a way that they would be easily understood by the user. Okay. Next, who says internal financial reports must look like financial statements? Internal financial reports, again, there are no rules. It would depend on the need of the decision makers. Okay, but there are instances that they may follow the format of financial statements. Okay, if that is what the decision makers need. Okay. Examples of financial reports, narrative on the liquidity and financial position. So again, liquidity is the availability of cash for the operations or the ability of the organization to convert their non-cash assets into cash because, for the most part, you need the cash, to pay off your loans, to pay your utilities, to buy the necessities. So, cash is very essential. And then financial position, it would pertain to the assets of the company, properties that they own, and then liabilities, the obligations, the loans that they must pay, and then the net assets. Okay. So this one is a narrative. An example is here. So in a way, you can easily understand if they are in this form, okay, narrative format. And then you have gauges or something like pictographs, charts, or pie graphs. Okay, example is here. So in a way, if you would consider the different types of learners, some learners are textual. They can easily understand something if they simply read the text. But for other types of learners, we have visual. They would need pictures or to see illustrations for them to better understand the information. So it would depend on who would request the financial report. Okay, some people would request them to be in table format or in pie pie chart or pie graph. Others would request gauges like this. Okay, so it would depend on the person requesting the information if they would rather have it in this form or in narrative form. Okay, so I've had bosses who requested narratives and others who requested pie charts and bar graphs. Okay. So who are the users? So for internal financial reports, it would include the management or church leadership or the pastor and the Board of Trustees. And then for the Board of Trustees, you have the President, Vice President, Secretary, Treasurer, and the Auditor. Okay, and then other times there would be members, extra members in the Board of Trustees, but the minimum is 5 members or 5 officers. Okay. Financial Oversight Committee, normally this would be composed of the auditor and the president because they're going to check whether the treasurer or the accounting properly recorded the transactions. Okay, and then you have the governing body, normally the Board of Trustees. Okay. Um, okay, I'm gonna skip a bit. Okay, so it's already 15 minutes. I'm going to end this here for a bit just to ensure that the app is not crashing again. All right.